let's paint some fishes in Gone style today. So let's begin. I'm going to start with a shade of yellow. We're going to add a lot of colors to this, which is going to be shades of yellow, orange, red, blue. So let's start. So yellow is going to look very attractive, I believe. So let's start. So we are going to paint a good amount of coat, and then we're going to add a lot of patterns on top of it. So let's start with our main fish, which is going to be this. You can see a lot of different artwork that I've done earlier. Don't forget to drop in a heart if you like this one. So we need to paint the entire fish with the same color, even on the face. Just leave the eyes and paint. But go very slow, especially on the corners. I'm not adding water. I used a bit of it initially just to make my brush wet. Since the paint have good consistency and it's not dry, so we really don't need any water. In this entire artwork, we are going to use different shades of like green, blue, yellow. So, and we are going to use shades of dark green and light green also. So all the shades that I'm using, I'm going to use a version lighter also and a dark version also. For example, this is a chrome yellow. After this, I'm going to use a lemon yellow color and make it it's up to you if you want to take a broad brush. I prefer taking a round one in this. See, we are trying moving inside the lines only. As I just told you which art form we are doing today. Anyone who wants to guess, anyone who have just joined us right now and would like to tell us which art form are we creating today? So anyone who would like to tell us, do send me a message in the comment section. See, I'm using a thick coat of paint, not a very transparent one. a small hint that once we are done with this coloring base color, we're going to add a lot of patterns on top of this. Always outline first, color the outline, and then fill in the color. If you want, I have used a thick coat of paint. If you want, you can use a little watery also, as we're going to add patterns on top of this. So you can see how beautiful this fish is looking now. Bright, and a pretty bright shade of yellow that I've used in. Any suggestions? Which color should I use on to highlight? Shall it be a shade of orange or shall I use a shade of red? Be careful on the corners. And here we are, done with our first fish, the first coat. Now let's move on to the next one. For the next one, I'm going to use a shade of blue, but this is going to be a shade of light blue that I want. So let's color it. Before moving on to the next color, make sure your brush is nice and clean. For this one, I'm going to use a little turquoise blue color, a light shade of turquoise blue, not a dark one. And then maybe we can highlight it with a darker shade. So this one I'm going to paint with a shade of blue. I don't want a very transparent paint. It's completely up to you which brush you want to use. I'm going to use a little thick brush. So this can add up a little speed to you. Carefully on the corners. So you can see we're adding the steel blue color to our next fish. Try and make the corner smooth. We don't want a rough edge. Let's do the corners. Now we're left with a face. Carefully. And here we are, done with the next one. For the fence on this one, I'm going to add a little shade of light blue. We're going to mix the two shade and possibly get a third one. Always when you're in doubt, use a mixing tray. This is a shade of green and teal blue that I've got now. Let's paint the fish fins. See, this one is just a little different one. It's almost the same shade. Shall we add a little darker one? Okay. I'm going to add a little bit shade of blue onto this because this is looking exactly the same. Okay, let's get it. Get another shade of blue altogether. This is neither teal green nor the shade of blue. We're gonna try it here. Like, okay. So we got this one. Be careful, especially on the corners. Also, when you are using a broad brush, so we're gonna just wait for it to dry up. So since my base coat is still wet, so I'm going to just add this one quickly and then wait for it to dry up before I could get the next layer. Let this coat dry up nicely. Meanwhile, let's move on to the next shade, which is going to be a shade of green. For this, I'm going to use a shade of light green. With the lighter tone, it always gives you a wide variety of options to add detailing onto this. You can either use black, you can use the same shade in a darker tone. So it really gives you a lot of possibilities to add color. So for that very reason, I am going to use a light shade of green. So let's start. This one also I'm going to use a round brush. It makes it easier. So this one is for the small fish. Use a color combination very wisely. Whenever you're using a brush after a long time, just make sure you have nicely washed up your brush. Also, make sure your base coat is dry up before you add on to the next color. Okay, so this is going to be a shade of green. Let's paint. It's completely up to you. It's optional what shade you want to use. I like using a handful of brushes, so it's always nice to clean up your brushes and then reuse them. So I have added a little bit water to my green, since green is one color which definitely requires two coat. So we are making fishes today and we are painting them in gaunt painting style. This is for all those who are still guessing which artwork we are doing today. Hope you get to learn something very different today. For all those who are painting this for the first time, it's up to you what kind of coat you want to give it to you. Give it on this. Is it a lighter coat or is it a good thick amount of paint that you want to cover? It's completely optional. Since this is a lighter shade, this would require two coats of paint. Just leave the eyeball and then paint the rest of it. Be careful, especially on the corners. Since we have done this in a little lighter tone, maybe we can do the wings or the fins in a little darker tone. Still need to add color to the body of the fish. The best part about any gone painting is that the amalgamation of different images that we create. For example, all these fishes are mingled with each other and yet very different from each other. They have a separate color combination. We're going to add different patterns to them. So it teaches how we should exist in our life, different from each other and yet how to live in peace and harmony. Since this is a file and I'm able to move it, if you're not very confident, use a round brush. Use a thin brush that gives you a possibility to minimalistically make mistakes. If you make any, try doing it very slow. That will eliminate all your chances of making it wrong or coloring the wrong portion. Even if you do it, then that is going to be, the effect is going to be minimalistic. Whenever we add color, just make sure your previous colors are nicely dried up. For all those people who think that they cannot start it, so I just want to tell them that there is no way where nobody can stop you. You can just keep on trying. It's all about practice. It's all about making yourself, keeping yourself happy and busy. So whenever you feel that you're not able to do it, just spend a few more minutes, learn something new. So you can see I've done multiple coats of paint here. Once we add pattern on top of this is going to go smooth. That's how you make silly mistakes. So here we are. Now let's move on to the next one, the last fish, and then we're going to add in details to every one of them. To say it precisely, we'll be painting in the base for everything, and then we're going to come back tomorrow and add details. For the next one, I'm going to use a shade of orange because I want to add a little more brightness to this one. So let's start. So this is going to be the most smallest fish in the center. So let's start. And of course the shade of yellow and orange looks fabulously well. See, if you're not very confident with the white brush, you can always use a thin brush. It would take you, a few more minutes extra, but then it's always nice because you can easily create your own color combination. You can go slow. First outline. So you can see I've left on the wings for almost all of them. So since this is a round brush, so it becomes a little difficult while you spread on the color. You can take inspiration from online portals available. You can take, I have created a lot of folk art work, and you can go out and check my Instagram account and my YouTube channel. I have created a lot of beginner friendly, paintings where you can, as a beginner, can start. Where I've created very small motifs, just a little, a small peacock or an elephant or a fish. And then, yes, you can keep trying. And I'm sure very soon you would be able to create the entire picture. So in this one, we're just creating the motifs. You can, add up details to its background. You can color the background. You can keep it white. It's completely up to you. It's completely optional. So we are. Now let's add more colors to this. First, we're gonna do the blue color, finished off before it dries up. Give a good thicker shade of blue. We want both the shades to be exactly the same. Let's give another coat on this one. So now you can see they're like nearly the same. So before the last coat, I'm going to let this paint dry up. Now I'm going to use a little lighter shade of yellow. This one is going to be for this. I have specifically not using the light blue shade because I thought I'll keep it for the base. So maybe we can paint the base with light blue shade to give it a water effect. So in folk art, especially in god art, fishes are very important. They depict reproduction. So a lot of people place this in their homes for prosperity, for happiness. So here we are. Now let's move on to a different shade. Next I'm going to use a little darker shade of green for the green fish. Maybe we can use the sap green color, which looks nice. I'm using acrylic colors by Fevicryl. You can use any shade. You can use watercolors also. It's completely up to you. Now let's coat the second fish. So we are using so many color combinations here. Be careful, especially on the corners. Just on the corners, carefully. We don't want a very transparent color. We want a good thick amount of color. Since this is a dark shade, we're going to use a lighter tone to highlight this one. If I use black color on this, this will become even more dark. So we're going to use a lighter tone. Now the last one. Since this is a shade of orange, I'm going to go really haywire, and I'm going to use altogether a very different shade, which is going to be a shade of salmon pink color. Just to tell everyone that yes, this color combination is really very amazing. Pink and orange looks very bright and unique. Since my salmon pink color is little dried up now, I have to add a little water to this. Moving on to the last one. So isn't this color combination looking very beautiful and attractive and bright? I hope you all have a really nice time painting these beautiful fishes. So we're gonna wait up till they dry up. See you tomorrow, same time. We're gonna add a lot of patterns to this entire thing. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time.